This is what the 5 C's are inside of that. Clear. This is direct and honest. When you talk to people, saying what it is exactly that you need or that you feel. Now, this is a hard one in terms of thinking of it from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, because in many cultures and in family systems, that's not what you were taught. That wasn't polite. You know, for some folks, they're not all from Philadelphia, where you just said what you said. It's, you know, and that's fine. What I have found, and it's actually beautiful, you know, we all have these different ways that we approach the world and communicate, but what I have found is because of the diversity of our spaces, the more clear and direct we can be, the less room for interpretation, wrong interpretation there is. So even though it can be uncomfortable, I do invite people to be clear and specific, because that's going to, if you don't tell me something, I'm going to fill in the gaps in my mind. When I walked in here, you all had assessments about me. What, you know, the second I dropped my thing, or what am I wearing, or, you know, my age, or whatever, you know, we size each other up all the time. So our minds fill in the blanks. So when we can be clear, we can really bridge some of those different points of view. Clean, listen up, y'all. This is the one that people have the hardest time with. This is about talking to the present concern and not past evidence. So it's not like this person is always, or that person never, or you always load the dishwasher wrong every single time for years and years. It's the most inefficient way to load the dishwasher, you know, versus like right now, what is the concern at hand right now that I'm asking us to identify and change? Compassionate to self and others. It's mostly hard to do this for ourselves, quite frankly. Like when we move into diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations, you will mess up. I have said things that have offended, or that I'm embarrassed about, or that I wish I had known better, or anybody else ever want to like pull their words back in? You're like, oh, come on, is there a rewind on that? And there's not, right? So how can we give space and compassion to have the courageous conversations that need to be had, right? For Bree to go up to Professor Morris and tell him what was going on was really quite courageous. And if you're in positions of leadership, how do you show that, right? How do you make that an okay way to be inside of your system or your culture? And then lastly, it's connected. The goal is collaboration, connection, and community. That is the whole goal. That's not the normal goal of communication. Standard communication is more transactional. We need this by when, the deliverable, this is when we're meeting, no thank you, yes please. All of that's important. You still need to have all of that. But I like to twist it a little bit and take a little paradigm shift and actually be what's possible when we approach conversations with the intention of there being connection. This came up for me really recently because I live right around the corner from the King Soopers that had the horrible shooting a year ago, and it's recently reopened. And I went back in. I was feeling feelings going back in. And then I saw Denise, who has been working there for like 20 or 30 years, and she knows my children's names and she knows my neighbors, and she's like giving me a hug. And I was like, it doesn't have to be this way, that in a big Kroger corporation store that I know Denise. It started because her grandson and my son have the same name, you know, and I've been shopping there for years and years. And what a beautiful thing, right? Because there's a human connection that has just happened through checking out in the grocery line year after year with Denise, right? So I want you to take a minute. I'm not going to ask you to share this information, so you can really be honest with yourselves. How do you think you're doing at creating an inclusive environment? And how comfortable are you working on a diverse team?